morning. Welcome to Woodland Chapel. So good to see all your beautiful faces this morning. And yeah, we are still in the season of Thanksgiving. You know, I guess Thanksgiving is every day in every way, but just really acknowledging that we set aside a time to be grateful. And so throughout our service today, let us just hold gratitude. And we will talk more about that later. But right now, I invite our practitioner, Cheryl, to bless us, welcome us with a centering prayer and invocation, a spiritual mind treatment.
Good
bring
morning.
Us all together in oneness.
Good morning. Can y'all hear me? Okay. Right here in this one precious moment we call now, I invite you to turn within and know that there is one spirit, one God, one higher power that holds all things together. And I live and move and have my being through that power. And as I know this to be true for myself, I know this to be true for each person in this room. And in that way, I include all who've chosen another place to worship this morning, another place to be. They are all a part of this one power. And this power radiates joy and love and peace and abundant gratitude through this, each and every one of us this morning. I know that this room is filled with the energy of love and light, K9 energy. I always want to celebrate K9 energy. So much a part of each of us in this room. As we move through this service and the words bless us and open our hearts and our minds to new adventures and new meaning, new perspective, reframing, and retelling our stories, I know that each of us takes something with us as we move out into the world, out into our day. I hold gratitude in my heart for all of these things that are happening around me and through me and as me. Wonderful, wonderful gratitude that shows up in so many amazing ways. So I release this word into the law, knowing it is done as spoken and through grace so much more. And I invite you to affirm, and so it is. And we have an affirmation. If you would join me. Home, a place to rest and refresh, a place to grow and to thrive, a place I hold in my heart. I'm free to grow because of my home of origin, or in spite of it. It's my choice. And so it is.
Thank you. And so let us stand and sing together with our beloved Blaine and Annie this morning.
Just like to say I'm grateful for beaver energy too.
Whoa.
No sides. Okay, today we're going to do one of our favorites where you participate with us with some sign language. The first word will be love. We've heard that spoken this morning already a couple times. So love. And then light. Spread that light. Peace. And joy. We let it be.
We let the love wash over us. We let light. We let the light wash over us. We let it be. With peace, we let the peace wash over us. We let it be. With joy, we let the joy wash over us. We let it be. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Oh, as I invite Catherine to do our inspirational reading, I would just ask if there is anyone new here today. And I know there is. And I'm sure that Kathy will get her some guest information. And just want to remind you that there are announcements on the back of the bulletin. So take it home and welcome Catherine.
Good morning. Is this working right? Once again, I'll be reading for Simon. He's grown shy of the stage in terms of speaking. Today's reading, entitled Caterpillars in Heaven, is written by Murphy, the Human Whisperer. It's part of an ongoing series of writings called Murphy's Dogma in the Science of Mind magazine. I can catch my breath here. I asked a caterpillar what he thought about butterflies. Well, I've seen thousands of them, he said, and I think they're really beautiful. I have no idea where they come from. I suspect they're angels. You know, all caterpillars believe in angels. I think it's a belief we are born with, and I have no idea why. I had to ask another question. What do you think happens after you die? I really don't know for sure, said the caterpillar. But what I do know is that when I've eaten everything I can eat and have grown as big as I can grow, I'll make a house to die in. I'm told I'll go to a special place called heaven, where I'll be given angel wings. I don't know much about that place, since no caterpillar has ever been there. You know, I'm always hungry. Humans are a lot like caterpillars. They don't know what happens when they transform from this world. The caterpillar's journey is a lot like ours. We fill up on everything life has to offer and transform into our most beautiful selves along the way. Cheers to all of our transformations. Thank you.
And so we're going to take a little extra time this morning to express our gratitude, as it is still Thanksgiving time. So, and welcome Reverend Don, our beloved speaker today, our awesome, wonderful assistant minister here at Woodland Chapel, and Shannon.
So, yes, this is a trinity of cooperation here on keeping the Thanksgiving season kind of moving along, because we have not had a real thing about talking about Thanksgiving yet a lot. So we have a wonderful reading here that's very short, but it starts out in this way about Thanksgiving. It says, "O sacred source, the one of no names and all names, my journey back to you is the source of my unity with all others. And I give thanks for the present moment and for that story by which my eyes can see and my ears can hear what you have revealed in the shaping of the universe. And so it is, I give thanks for that story by which I know the 15 billion years of my unfolding.
And I give you thanks for the enormous contribution of those who lived before me, for the thousands of years during which humans crafted their images of you and of images of the feminine and of the earth.
For loosening our tongues, I give thanks, that we might utter words about your eternal word, and for the ice ages that shape the lands, the mountains and the rivers, which have in turn shaped our imaginations.
I give thanks for all the mammals who have taught us to birth and succor our young, and for the coming of the flowering plants that channel their energy into the seeds by which the future is endowed.
And I give thanks for the birds who brought song and melody to the earth, and for all the great green plants and their interdependence with insects, and for all the teeming life within the oceans which fashioned the sensing organs of earth.
I am so thankful for the first simple life forms that learned to take nourishment from the sun, our mother star, and laid down a pattern of giving away themselves to others and receiving from others, and for the supernova event by which our mother star collapsed and created the stardust out of which the solar system was formed.
And I give thanks for the stars and the galaxies in which is incarnated all the dreams and the visions and the energies by which you have shaped this present moment. And finally, I speak for all my humanity. We give thanks for the first moment, that utter act of giving by which you brought forth this single body of the universe, out of which we weave the web of our own existence, and for the dark, impenetrable, pregnant, awesome mystery that you are, and out of which you have called our names. We answer and become one with all that is. And so it is. Amen. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Now we're going to sing. Shall we stand and sing?
Well, there'll be places to sing, that's for sure.
No, let's
So this is a song, one of the first songs I learned in New Thought. Give yourself to love. Kind friends all gather around. There's something I would say. What brings us together? It's blessed us all today. Love has made a circle. It holds us all inside. Where strangers are all family. Loneliness can't hide. So just give yourself to love. Love is what you're after. Open up your heart to the tears and laughter and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. I've walked the mountains in the rain. I've learned to love the wind. I've been up before the sunrise, and I watched the day begin. I always knew I'd find you, though I never did know how. But like sunshine on a cloudy day, you stand before me now. So just give yourself to love. Love is what you're after. Open up your heart to the tears and laughter and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. Love is born in fire. It's planted like a seed. Love can't bring you everything, but it will bring you what you need. Love comes when you're ready, and it comes when you're afraid. It can be your greatest teacher, the best friend you've ever made. Sing with me. And just give yourself to love. Love is what you're after. Open up your heart to the tears and laughter and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. If you've heard me do this song before, you know what's next. I want you to put your hand over your heart. We're gonna sing, I give myself to love. I give myself to love. Love is what I'm after. I open up my heart to the tears and laughter, and I give myself to love. Give myself to love. Let's do that again, it feels good. Give myself to love. Love is what I'm after. I open up my heart to the tears and laughter, and I give myself to love. I give myself to love. I give myself to love. Give myself to love. Good job, you guys.
How can we do better than that? I don't think we can. Thank you, Blaine. Thank you, Annie. Well, good morning, everyone. Glad you could all be here this morning, this afternoon, this after Thanksgiving Sunday. I understand a good time was had here last week on Turkey Day. Good food, good family, good friends, like having a family in your spiritual home. That's what we like to think of it, right? Yeah, felt like being family in a spiritual home. You know, speaking of home, that's the title of our subject today, but I think twice about that as I say that, because the subject is actually the letters H period, O period, M period, E period. So what does that mean? It's kind of like an acronym coming on, I think. Yeah, you know what an acronym is. And although most of us would like to think about a home as that it's like a paradox of safety, having a sense like of rootedness, belonging, belonging. Many times it's not the reality, is it? It can really be jumbled. You know, speaking of holiday get-togethers, you know and I know, not everyone looks forward to going home for the holidays. No. To be frank and honest and right up front with something that's not uncommon, sometimes what is known as home is that place that can break us, or break us down, or break us open. It's a place that we may have acquired wounds that have been difficult to heal. Yeah. Most of us could describe what the elements of a healthy, happy, what we'd like to have as a home going should be, or a home. Well, there's many others that could say they didn't grow up in ideal home environments. Some have details and some won't tell you anything. But nonetheless, home is what it was, or is what we call or called home, and it'll always have the roots and the seeds, the roots and the seeds embedded in our consciousness, in our minds, our bodies, our hearts, and our lives that hold the various degrees of what influences us, the influence on who and what we have grown to be right now and at each stage of our lives. Those who study human behaviors, and that's not me. I just love people as they are, but I say that a lot. But those who really study human behaviors, they tell us, they claim that the idea of home is like it's primal. Now, primal means relating to the early stages in our evolutionary development, like primeval, the early beginnings where the growing all begins, and that kind of, as we think about our childhood, that's how it can be. And then they report that for many, family visits can become a time of recreation and renewal and rejoicing as people gather together with family and friends of family, and they share expectations of love, and they laugh, good-natured joshing, lots of home-cooked favorites. But as I stated earlier, not everyone can report happy expectations to go home for the holidays. Now, in my life experiences, for me, I will share a tidbit here. I will not dishonor my parents in any way about my home experiences. But it did take a few years after I began my own family and bounced the experiences of home around before settling down into a home of my own and for my children, my wife. Settling down and into home came about from discoveries, revelations of the early childhood experiences of my own parents' lives. I began to find out some things when they were young, beginning to struggle and navigate becoming parents. That was up to me to help them become parents. I was the first child. A couple others came along after that. And growing up, year by year, the story of my parents growing kind of unfolded. My mother, my dear, sweet mother, that red-headed, beautiful woman that her hair stayed red to the time she passed on when she was 88 years of age. Yeah, it's amazing. Anyhow, her father moved his family many times. He was a combination country school teacher and a church builder. Now, it was easy to find country school jobs in those days. Everybody needed a teacher. And he moved to a small town in the Midwest, and he always found jobs as a school teacher. Then he would work at creating a congregation for his preaching and establishing a church. He was a door knocker. He'd just go out and say, "Come on down and visit our church down over so-and-so." And then he would train a pastor, and then he'd move on and find another job, teaching school, another town, same program. So my mother's father, her grandmother, my great-grandmother, you see, she trained my grandpa in what he did because he helped her in her ministry as a traveling tent evangelist. Yeah, great-grandma. She was a woman preacher with dreams of becoming another Amy Semple McPherson, but it didn't work out that way. But there was a few women evangelists in those days. She always had that dream, had that calling, and she tried to live that in her son, I think. And there again, my mother's definition of home was probably incomplete growing through her childhood, being moved on so many times. But I find it so interesting, even fascinating, how the universe works, how the universe really works, especially in human matters. You know, we hear that the universe is conspiring for us all the time. Well, it doesn't seem to be that way sometimes, but it really is, as we find out in the final analysis of things. You see, my mother, she married my father right out of high school, and he was a man who had a secret. And it was discovered only after he had finished his life and passed on. That's another story. But home to my father, let me get to my father a bit. I need a drink of water. I hope I'm not boring you with my stories, because we need to get into this idea of home in a minute. Home to my dad, growing up, was a wheat farm in Kansas. You've heard me talk about this before. Until he was 18 years of age, and the Great Depression took his father's savings in the stock market losses, and the Great Dust Bowl winds took their farm. Nothing left. Blew it into ruin. And so they had to become migrants, travel westward looking for work and another home. My father found my mother at a church meeting in Colorado where my mother's father was preaching, building a church. And the skills of farming that he had was all he had, being an 8th grade education. He found out he was good at that. He could actually do a lot of things with farm machinery and whatnot. But he launched his married family and home. I don't know how to put this. I was going to write it down, but I don't think it works that way. He moved all over the states of the west part of our country, just constantly on the move because he had a secret. He stayed for just short periods of time, each job working the machinery, tilling the harvesting the crops, doing all that. And he became a foreman here and a foreman there and a ranch manager there, moved on. And that 8th grade education didn't hinder him in any way that way. But this finding a home was a repeat of my mother's experiences of her childhood, following a man's journey for livelihood, you know, and looking for greener pastures, of course, it was his idea, always seeking to change, leaving some treasures behind. I remember things we'd have to leave behind because we couldn't pack them and take them with us. My mom would find a sweet little table she liked, and it would be left. And I left my dogs. My father would not take our dogs with us. So, you know, there was all kinds of things going on with that. But I never had a best friend. I don't remember ever having a best friend. I had lots of acquaintances. I could make contacts and so on. But I knew we'd be moving again and again, and I just trusted my dad. I really trusted him to do what was best for us. So by the time I was 10 years of age, I could drive tractors and do all kinds of things. I could rake and combine, stack. I could stack hay in barns, and when I was in the 5th grade, and these hay bales weighed 20 or 30 pounds more than me. In other words, I'm saying I was a strong little rascal. I was lean and skinny, but strong. So the longest time that I can remember talking about home now here, living in one home was in Idaho, where I was in the 5th grade, and I had a chance to finish through out into the 9th grade. Those were good years for us. Then we moved to Oregon, where I finished high school here in Salem, and met Phyllis. And I was going to study to be a teacher. Intentions were all set up and ready to go. But of course, the universe opened different doors for me. And I found home, had to find home in my businesses and my avocations, and Phyllis and I raising our 3 beautiful daughters. And home became like a rainbow. It was a place where lovely experiences were and manifested. We planted ourselves. I made sure I did not move my family around. We planted ourselves and never moved as our children began their schooling. And they just finished out. In fact, our home is within a few blocks of all 3 schools. Grade school, junior high, high school, within walking distance. I spent a lot of time walking up to the principal's office on one of my daughters that liked to do so. Oh, that was fun. Okay. So, of course, all of our children have their recollections and memories colored by their own experiences. Is that God calling? Okay. And their children are probably going to carry on just like you know the story. You've got your own. You've had children and so on. But taking this word home, really taking it to heart, the home. Actually, the letters, H period, O period, M period, E period. Remember the guy used to go, H period, O period. How we did that. Who was that guy? That was Victor Borge. Thank you. Yeah. Things like that. Can't do it that way. But taking that word H-O-M-E, the letters, if we acronym it out, most of us know what that acronym is, right? You know, it's using the letters of a word, creating a sentence of meaning. So see if we can do this. For this discussion today, we'll take this H-O-M-E, the title of the message, and acknowledging that there does exist many who identify to those unhappy childhood traumas, which stubbornly may have never left us. So the initials could be H, could be having, O, our, minds, entangled or ensnared or even enslaved, or H-O-M-E, harming our minds and entangling, and carry that out in, as we call it, victimhood. You see, it's all in our minds, of course, but our minds guarantee our feelings, what we're thinking about all the time. So I think our intention today, or my intention, is to see if we can transcend these experiences and these perspectives of H-O-M-E to something else. You see, information really is coming readily available now today about the necessity of the human being, realizing and recognizing that home is where the heart is. And because home is where the heart is, it can often be the place where the hearts are broken and where hearts are the most bruised and maybe abused. But the necessity arises for what is called, they call it perspective intervention. Does that ring a bell? It didn't to me, so I was reading about it. Intervention of perspective, where healing can occur. So much of healing comes from getting help for assisting us in shifting our thinking to embrace a different pathway, and then our perspective alters and changes. A different understanding is what it comes down to about what home can really mean for us. It's a decision-making of what we wish to hold as a memory, what we really want to hold as a memory, and what we want to release as emotional waste. You know, I have a thing I say all the time: keep the best, flush the rest. Amen. One step in doing this, I read, was to change that acronym of the H-O-M-E from holding our minds ensnared or enslaved or whatever, or harming our mind and emotions, no, none of that, but allow our sense of feeling the primal energy of the word home. Go back to that primal part. It's the place where healing opportunities manifest everywhere. Yeah. H-O-M-E. Or to mystically put it, here's something I liked. Put it in a spiritual perspective, we could read as H-O-M-E, happiness in oneness, melding energetically, because it tells us that we're creatures. We are creatures energetically conditioned. We feel a lot. We strongly feel. And we're creatures with feeling and knowing. But we don't always use our power of knowing to consciously create. Aha, that's something, our experiences. We just meet our experiences and then we react. To choose wisely and act accordingly is part of that intervention perspective. And it becomes really a kind of a really great realization when we discover that we have the capacity to grasp our inner knowing and then create our outer experiences. See, there's great satisfaction in knowing that home is where the heart is and that we bring enough stored up love with us into life that we can just draw on it because we're drawing on the source. In our philosophy, we're going to be able to teach that. And I know a friend. I want to tell you about this person. This is a real person who was retired early, and they became a world citizen. And they didn't do this with a lot of money. They travel. He travels. She travels, and lives in cultures with people who live in the small communities of the country, and they make their home with the locals. They can rent a room and they can rent a house, very reasonable in places. And the perspective that she or he holds is that, in their own words, where they regard home, in text they sent this to me. They said, home is an entirely inner experience for me. I literally carry it with me wherever I go. That's a different perspective. So you see, there is a real major truth that follows humankind everywhere. This major truth is that it's about the impact and the influence of evolving. Evolution is inescapable. You cannot get away, we cannot get away from evolving. See, we don't change. It usually starts with change, doesn't it? But we don't change just for change's sake. That's not the idea. We evolve. Our changing starts with thinking, of course. And our spiritually productive thinking, I like to call it, spiritually productive thinking starts with accepting of who we really are. Who we really are. The major portion of humanity has a different perspective than a spiritual perspective of who we really are. Okay, now, if you take a child growing up in difficult or neglectful or broken situations, then we're going to find that they're naturally susceptible to becoming homeless or incarcerated or addicted. But you know what? By no means are they destined. There's no destiny to be a permanent victim of the hardships or the abuse. You guys know who Wayne Dyer is, don't you? Yeah. You know his story? Yeah, many of you do. He's well known in the healing and the self-help communities around the world. He's passed on now. But man, oh man, if you read about his childhood, he started out in dank poverty, and parents gave him up, just left him standing on the street corner. And he was in and out of foster homes and orphanages his entire childhood. But you know, he overcame those great childhood challenges that could have destroyed his life. Through his spiritual and human efforts, he became what Carl Jung coined as a term, a wounded healer. He faced it, he was wounded, but he became a healer out of that. Wayne Dyer became a healed healer. And he had to go through the depths of human negative experience to get that, of course. But being a chronic victim, he was not his thing of being a wounded healer. There's no shame in the game of life, is what he used to say, and I've copied that sometimes. No shame in the game of life. No. But it's something we all have. We all have to realize that. The original purpose that we bring as beings of eternal light to this earth, make a home on earth, we bring that from the creation, don't we, into the created state. Oh, I guess it sounds so wiggly and woo-woo. But we find ourselves navigating the world and our human experiences and finding not just love, but we can find spiritual love. Not everyone's aware of that. We find ourselves that we really are empowered not by an inner strength. And knowing that we're part of something that has found an override of this soul power, so to speak, some part of the source of all that is, just somehow it's there. I don't want to sound too mystical or woo-woo, but I read somewhere that Wayne Dyer recognized his oneness with the source of all that is, and that was the simple thing for him. He then could bring his life into focus for himself and others to find healing. He claimed over and over again that he was no exception. We can think of other wounded healers. Just think of these. I'm going to name a couple here. Hardships and wounds, can be anything. Abuse and wounds can be from injury or illness or whatever. But you take somebody like Christopher Reeve. Do you remember him? Yeah, from the neck down. He was Oprah Winfrey, Maya Angelou, childhood abuse, rape. And how about Nelson Mandela? Really had it poured on him for years, the abuse in prison and so on. But he was able to forgive the injustices and then create a path of peace and cooperation, just to name a few of these people here. But in our science of mind philosophy, we can find this as a teaching that speaks to the possibility of awakening. It's all about the awakening of a revelation that's within us, of becoming and being and requiring that faith in a human recognition that there is a power. When we recognize this, you've got a hold of a tail of a comet. You realize that if there is a power greater than any human problem or negative condition, when we get that, then it's available to all and anyone for using it, because it's a power that evolves out of our home base, from within that one source of power. And from it, every human being, everything begins its journey into manifestation from that one home base. And in the human uses, especially according to our individual understanding, it usually becomes evident in that change in whatever, then our understanding can deepen where we evolve, recognizing that power is working not only for us, but through us. And then that becomes something that really changes us, that really anchors us. And faith. Then comes faith. And here's the simplest, most powerful happening for us in our creation of home awareness. The coming home, as it were, to our true self. You see, that original home of where we authenticate our identity of being one with that power, our home base. We come upon what Jesus said when he talked about these things and more. Through us, as us, we can do. I know. When I got into this, I really got complicated, because sometimes what you feel and what you know, how in the dickens do you tell it? If you've had a spiritual experience, how do you tell someone about it? I don't know. One person said, all you do is live then in that change or that evolution that you became. I suppose that's true. I'm going to have to start winding up here. But, there is a teaching that we read that says faith, and that's where it comes down to, without works is dead. But that if we have a faith with the right works attached to it, we can move a mountain, and then paths open up for us to go home where the heart is. That's the idea. Because when you go home where the heart is, then we come home to ourselves. We simply allow love to bloom everywhere. The meditation we had this morning talked a little bit about that. Love is a really overly spoken word used in much of our social world, I think. Yeah, you hear everybody talk about, I just love you. I'm going to love you. I love her. I love him. We love everybody, don't we? Well, we have to raise it out of the mundane, above the ordinary. And I like the acronym that I use for love. You've heard me talk about that, isn't it? Because that kind of love authenticates the real meaning of spiritual growth. You know, it's where we can transcend living by comparisons and judgments. You know how you can tell how you're making any spiritual growth? The easiest way to do it? If you wonder, am I making any spiritual growth? Just measure how often and quick you are to find offense at things. Just measure how quick you are to judge something, to get angry about something. I'm not taking this crap anymore. You know, that kind of thing. I saw that bumper sticker on the pickup years ago that said, if you're not angry, you're not paying attention. You know, that kind of thing. That's a good measuring stick for you, for us anyhow. So love simply means LOVE, letting others verify existence. Yeah, what's wrong with that? So I think I'm going to wrap up here. And I just feel like I've lost my way for really helping me understand how I can help you understand what it really means to find spiritual experience inside of yourself. I know we have classes that teach that, and preachers and pastors that get up and preach that, but until that experience happens to you, you'll never understand what it really is all about. And I didn't understand what it was really all about until I had the experience. You see, I think we came here, given birth on this earth, to install home. I think home is where the heart is, and we carry it with us because that is where we come from and where everything ends up. Think of that. The universe doesn't let anything go to waste. There's no garbage pits in the universe. Every one of us has the sense of home that's, I think, nestled at the core of our being. Just feel it. Think about it. There's home that's nestled right there. And if heaven is home, as some say, and as wisdom teachings claim that home has never left us, then we can just say welcome home to one another. Every time we see them, we can just hold hands, continue our walk, and walk our talk, and we're always heading home. So that's all I'm going to say today. Amen. I'd like to hear some more music. Namaste.
This is a song by Miranda Lambert about going back home for healing. It's called The House That Built Me. I know they say you can't go home again. I just had to come back one last time. Ma'am, I know you don't know me from Adam, but these handprints on the front steps, they're mine. Up those stairs in that little back bedroom is where I did my homework and I learned to play guitar. And I bet you didn't know, under that live oak, my favorite dog is buried in the yard. I thought if I could touch this place or feel it, this brokenness inside me might start healing. Out here it's like I'm somewhere else. I thought that maybe I could find myself. If I could just come in, I swear I'll leave. I won't take nothing but a memory from this house that built me. Mama cut out pictures of houses for years, from Better Home and Garden magazines. Plans were drawn, concrete poured, nail by nail and board by board. Well, Daddy gave life to Mama's dream. I thought if I could touch this place or feel it, this brokenness inside me might start healing. Out here it's like I'm someone else. I thought that maybe I could find myself. If I could just walk in, I swear I'll leave. I won't take nothing but a memory from this house that built me. You leave home, you move on, and you do the best you can. Well, I got lost in this old world and forgot who I am. I thought if I could just touch this place or feel it, well, this brokenness inside me might start healing. Out here it's like I'm someone else. I thought that maybe I could find myself. If I could walk around, I swear I'll leave. I won't take nothing but my memories from this house that built me. This house that built me.
Oh, thank you, Annie. That song always makes me cry. And I'm just so grateful for today. Thank you so much in talking about gratitude. And your words, Don, you know, I loved all the words that you spoke today, but what he was also saying comes across through who he is, doesn't it? So our words, yes, but it's the spirit that is really transferred. And thank you ever so much. What a wonderful, wonderful day. In deep gratitude I am. And I invite our ushers to come forward.
Well, let's have, I think Simon's mom on.
Yes. You don't have a choice. And so around this gratitude, you know that we teach and we invite not just to take the words, but to, as Ernest Holmes said, prove it for ourselves. The words only mean what we can prove in our own life. And what we focus on, I will say, to take and prove this in your life, what we focus on multiplies, and as we focus on gratitude, that for which we are grateful multiplies. And this morning, as we get to share from our abundance, I am grateful for our abundance. And if we pay attention, indeed our needs are met and overflowing. So in deep gratitude for each gift this morning, in deep gratitude for all of your prosperity, for all of our prosperity, because truly this universe is abundant. And as we open up more and more to that idea, we see it more and more. So thank you, God. And we have an affirmation we say together. divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. And that is so, and so it is.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have.
I am so
blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
I am so
I am so blessed.
I am so
I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have.
I am so
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
I can feel it right down to my throat, the top of my bushy hair. So blessed. So blessed. What is fun? Good for praying. So life is like that. It brings us sometimes to our knees so that we can say, it's time to pray. And we can pray in any form, any fashion, any position in life. And this prayer I offer today is one of gratitude, thankfulness, the joy of knowing that we have a spiritual home here, and what you bring to it, you offer to share, and you're sharing. This whole place is yours. This is your spiritual home. Welcome home, everyone. Welcome home. Hold hands if you want, hug if you want. Welcome home. Thank you. So it is.
And we're going to say this prayer of protection together as we end our services. And I just want to acknowledge James Dillett Freeman, who wrote this, A Unity Guide. And churches around the world say this because they are words of truth. And so let us say it together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And it is well. And so let us stand in peace.
Country roads take me home to the place I belong. Willamette Valley, Cascade Mountains, take me home. Country roads, country roads, take me home to the place I belong. Willamette Valley, Cascade Mountains, country roads, take me home. I hear her voice in the morning as she calls to me. Radio reminds me of my home far away. Riding down the road, I get a feeling that I should have been home yesterday. Yesterday, country roads take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Willamette Valley, Cascade Mountains, I forgot my own words, take me home. Country roads, oh, take me home. Country roads, just take me home. Country roads.
Oh, yes.
End out song. Oh, sorry about that.
Nothing like a Blaine and Annie song.